sophomore year, my teacher gave us the option of what book we wanted to read next in her class. A few of us started naming classics such as A Catcher in the Rye, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and For Whom the Bell Tolls. She then explained that we weren't allowed to read those in school anymore. This is when it was brought to my attention that more and more great classics are being banned from schools every year. This is why we must incorporate these books back into schools for the many benefits they bring to students. These books provide students with great English material, give them stories to learn from, and help make sure history doesn't repeat itself. One reason these books should be incorporated back into schools is because they are literary classics. These books are great works of English that students should be introduced to in their high school classes. When students get to college, professors are going to expect them to know the great names of Hemingway, Sawyer, and Salinger. But if they are censored in high schools, students are missing out on valuable English material and memorable authors. Students will also get to see different writing styles between the authors and could be introduced into a style that works well for them. For example, in For Whom the Bell Tolls, Hemingway describes in great detail the harsh reality of war with his writing style. Another reason they should be incorporated is because they provide stories for students that is clear and easy to read. Although these books are considered old, they are still modern and use language that is understandable to students. In high school today, students are reading Shakespeare, whose writing style is a lot more complicated than that of the classic literary authors. Not only are Shakespeare's writings hard to read, but they are also hard to understand. While in The Catcher in the Rye, students should be able to relate to the growing up process and how we all lose our sense of innocence. Lastly, these books contain real-life events that could help show insight to students. For example, in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer uses harsh racial slurs, thus the reasoning behind it being banned from schools. Although harsh word choices, Sawyer uses these words to show the reality of the time period and how people truly acted. As upset as people have gotten over the racial terms, this shows how impactful this book was and shows us what we never want to happen again. Sawyer wrote a book that all students should read so history doesn't repeat itself. Some may say that high school students shouldn't be reading inappropriate books such as these listed earlier. But in high school, students hear far worse language than that in the banned books, and in a truly derogatory manner. Although Sawyer used those words in his book, he wasn't saying it in the way students do in schools. Sawyer was using those slurs to prove a point and to show how harmful those words can be, while kids in high school use them to truly hurt or make lewd jokes. Also, after a recent survey I gave to my class, almost 80% of the class agreed that books do not negatively affect others. Just like in Fahrenheit 451, are we becoming the type of society that controls what we do and what we are allowed to learn? These books and many others like them offer an enriching educational experience. They provide noteworthy English content, relatable plots and characters, and help us to learn from our mistakes.